You know what the most common question is here at the Milsurp Garage? What's your favorite? Which is your favorite shotgun? What's your favorite handgun? Your favorite 22? You know what my favorite is? The next one. This is the next one. Harrington and Richardson Model 865 Plainsman. We're going to delve into this guy. We're going to take a look. And we're going to find out what this thing has in common with a modern day smoke detector. Stay tuned. Let's check it out. Milsurp Garage, Harrington and Richardson, Model 865 Plainsman. Bolt action, 22, short, long rifle, box magazine, 6+1 capacity. We got plastic butt plate. We got plastic trigger guard. We got some decent wood. We got a safety. We got a visual cocking indicator. Got a nice smooth bolt. Grooved for a scope. Decent sight. Whatever you call it, a leaf sight. What do you call those? Decent. It's all put together. What was Harrington and Richardson throwing out? Do we even have another Harrington and Richardson rifle on the channel? I don't think so. I think we might have a 22 pistol in there, but that's about it. 24-inch barrel we got here. And these were made with 22 or 24-inch barrels. We got the 24-inch we're sporting here. And yeah, these were part of a long line of 22 rifles made by Harrington Richardson. This guy was around for quite a while, 1949 through 1986. 1986 was when they went out of business. Buyout, actually, by New England Firearms. So just Harrington Richardson, as we knew it, disappeared. They kind of continued on and whatever. If you really wanted to study the history of the company and what happened to them and how they changed places. But 86 was basically the end of the original, what was left of what you could call the original company. Let's put it that way. They, of course, had been through some changes because Harrington and Richardson themselves started in 1871. Wow. Is that 150, over 150 years ago? Crazy. Yeah, this company started, interestingly, the brother of Dan Wesson. So Dan Wesson is the co-founder, Smith and Wesson. He's the Wesson of Smith and Wesson, Dan Wesson. He had a brother, Frank Wesson. Frank Wesson started a firearms manufacturing firm in 1859, and he shared a patent with this guy, Nathan Harrington. And they had a company going on there, producing some stuff, some whatever interesting kind of like shotguns or spur trigger pistols, interesting stuff like, 1870s stuff, which I'm not really that familiar with. And he started a partnership. Frank Wesson, this is, started a partnership in 1871 with Harrington's nephew, Gilbert Henderson Harrington, as Wesson and Harrington, until Harrington bought out Wesson, Frank Wesson, in 1874. So in 1875, Harrington and another former Wesson employee, believe strangely enough, William Augustus Richardson, they formed a new Harrington and Richardson company. So in 1875. In 1888, they were incorporated as the Harrington and Richardson Arms Company. And Harrington was president, Richardson was treasurer, and George F. Brooks was secretary. Now, after the deaths of Harrington and Richardson in 1897, I guess they both died the same year. That's kind of crazy. Brooks became the manager, and the company was held by heirs Edwin C. Harrington, who was Gilbert Harrington's son, and Mary A. Richardson, who was William Richardson's wife. And yeah, so there's a lot of history going, just I'm not going to give you every little thing through the years that happened, but when we get up to this guy, because this guy is a 1965, so when we get closer to the 60s, Harrington and Richardson was acquired by the Kidde Corporation. If you've ever, Kidde might be familiar to you because it might be familiar because you'd see it on your smoke detectors. Now, Kidde is also a very old company. Kidde was founded in 1917. This is really interesting. The guy that founded it was Walter Kidde. 1917, he founded the company. And in 1918, this is what made the company. In 1918, he purchased the rights to the Rich system, which was apparently something that had to do with a way to detect fires on board ships. In the 1920s, he also invented different things, a device that allowed quick release of carbon dioxide, making fire extinguishers more functional. And you know what these guys do. These guys were all about fire extinguishers, fire suppression systems, and smoke detection. What's interesting about the company is that after the war, so they did some work, for the war, for wartime, like things to put out fires in planes and ships, things like that, for the war effort. 1950s, after the war, they were hurting. Like a lot of things, like the war is, it puts everybody to work, that's for sure. And in the 50s, they were stumbling. So they diversified into machinery and tool manufacturing, siphon devices for consumer and medical uses, and aircraft accessories. Now, in the 1960s, here we go. This is where these guys took off. And this is where, the acquisition of Harrington and Richardson was during this period. Robert Dickinson, he was named the president of the company, 61 this was. And in 64, Fred Sullivan, officer and director of the Litton Industries, whatever that is, he succeeded Dickinson as president and later succeeded John Kidde as chairman. From 64 to 68, this guy turned this company. They grew from a 40 million annual revenue company to a 400 million. And in 66, they were named the Fortune 500. They were named to the Fortune 500 list at position 283. So in the 60s, that company just exploded, and acquiring H&R Firearms was one of their acquisitions. And during this period, 1965, this guy, I would assume, was right in that period when they were acquired by Kidde. And that's its history. Its history is being a very close relative, a cousin to the Kidde Corporation, making fire extinguishers and smoke detectors. Now, one sad thing about this Kidde Corporation is, man, they got hit hard with lawsuits and recalls and everything on fire extinguishers that supposedly weren't working. They had to recall fire extinguishers like that went all the way back to the 70s. It was insane. And then on the back of that was a whole thing about their smoke detectors not working until it was like lethal levels of smoke. Craziness. I mean, it's like it was definitely a huge downfall. May 14th, 2023, not that long, just a few months ago, they filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, and they're gone. You're probably not going to see another Kidde smoke detector in the store, and if you do, you probably shouldn't use it, but I'm just saying. And Harrington and Richardson, also long gone. So we're talking about ghosts here, ladies and gentlemen. Ghosts. So what's interesting about this guy? Let's talk about it. Well, there were different versions of, let's just stick specifically to this one for now. There were different versions, and I did a little bit of research where I researched out one different one different version for you. So you see how this mag, like just like a drop-free mag, this was a big thing. They didn't have mags that dropped out just from hitting the button, and it actually does. Here's the ad that extols on that. That you press the button and the mag comes out. It's like they were talking about how fast this thing was, how fast the boat worked, how fast it was to slap in mags, and you just look at it, it just appears to be just like any other 22. But this is kind of interesting that it's not like a heel release or a weird, like some type of weird button. Like, being that it's right here is an interesting spot where you do just push it forward, and I'll be damned if it doesn't just fall out. It didn't when I first bought this. This was gummed up totally. This thing was, it was crazy. It took hours to clean it. There was like 3 rifles that I bought from the same kind of like collection, same I don't know what you would call it. Like it wasn't really an estate, but same group. The guy had all 3. Let's put it that way. But I think he just sold them. I don't think he was dead, so I don't think you could call it an estate. But they were just like as if he covered them in grease and put them away when they were new. They actually turns out to be in good shape, but there was a little bit of blemishing, like from the grease. Grease can do weird things. So that even though this is cleaned with something highly astringent like mineral spirits, it's still left behind a mark. And I think with something very light abrasion-y type thing, if I take the sight off, I might be able to like polish this like a karting wheel or something like that. But less is more when you don't really have everything you need. It's better to just leave it. But it is like kind of like blemished because of it. But at least I got all the gunk out and it actually works. It wasn't even it would click. You would be able to cock it and pull the trigger and hear a click, but it wouldn't fire because it was just so gunked up that the firing pin wasn't even traveling far enough to hit the round. It did that with 2 of the 3, believe it or not, with that gunked up. Well, anyway, where was I? Oh, but the mag, there were problems with this. It wasn't, that's why I'm not going to take it out of the stock, because part of it had to do with the alignment of the stock with this plate and how it was, just how it was put together. So taking it apart and putting it together, my coffee out of here before I spill it, taking it apart and putting it back together was half the issue, the alignment, and the other half was there's like a weird spring and how it was put together. I straightened it out and I actually made it work like it's supposed to. And if I push this, see it might need 2 presses to come out, but but it does fall out on its own. Oh, excuse me. Oh, where was I? Okay, so the magazines. This is how we can separate 2 different versions of this rifle, because there was an early version that had a curved magazine. The curved magazine was the old style, 1949 to 1952. And then the straight magazine, this guy being a 65, straight magazine was 1953 to 1986. So obviously the curved magazine ones are the rarer ones, more rare ones. And there's also a version of this rifle. Let me see, might as well cover that. Well, here, what else? Let me just stick to this one specifically. What else did we have? I gotta remember. Then we could break into the variants and the different kinds. So there were other different versions, but I mean, that's one thing that I broke it down, where I could break it down by the years, just by the different magazines. So if you need a magazine for yours, be careful that you don't buy the wrong one. This is this photo that I had up here. This is Numrich selling both. They have both, and they're both. They have both of them, and you could you'd have to just go by the year. You could look inside if you don't have a mag and you're like, geez, I don't know which one to get. They're not that expensive where it would hurt so much if you got both. You could always return one, or just look inside and see if the walls of where your magazine go in are curved or straight. That's a good way to figure it out. Or you can use this method for dating. So Harrington Richardson has barrel date codes. How cool is that? I have to find mine. We'll zoom in anyway. Let's zoom in anyway and take a look at close up what we got, anything we have written on here. Yeah, so by the safety we have some writing here for fire and safe. And it's real hard to move the safety, so that's good. I like that. I don't like safeties. I don't like safeties that flop around, especially. Do we have anything? Oh, I think there was the date code, but let's turn it around so we could read what we got on here. We have Model 865, Plainsman, 22 cal, short, long rifle. There's the date code, AB. AB dates to 1965. Harrington and Richardson Incorporated. So the different versions now. So you could go crazy looking. There was the whole series of these different ones through the years. There's a 750 Pioneer. That's basically this rifle as a single shot. There's an 852, which is the tube magazine version of this, the Fieldsman. And then, of course, the 865 Plainsman, which is the box magazine version. Now, of course, there were even other ones. There was, let me pull this up here. There was a 750. Oh, didn't I just say that? That was the single shot? Yeah, the 750 was the Pioneer. So, yeah, here's a picture of that one here. These have nice scopes. Now, you see that one on the top? The 866. The 866 is an 865 with that Mannlicher stock on there. See that full-length stock like that? They supposedly made that for 1 year. That's a rare variant. It's only built in 1971, and even then, only for a few months, from what I'm reading. I read that in a couple of different places, that for a couple of months in 1971, they made that 866. And then here on the bottom, you see this 158C Topper combination rifle, which, remember that Topper? That kind of went back to when Wesson and Richardson had that company. They had some kind of Topper shotgun or whatever. And here this is many years later here, and it's got something that's probably similar. Looks like you could swap out barrels. 30-30 with a 20 gauge, or you could get, that's the 158C. So yeah, two guns in one with interchangeable. So you had a 30-30 rifle barrel, you had a 20 gauge shotgun onto the same gun, or the 158 was a 30-30 rifle only. The 158C 22 Hornet with 20 gauge, or a 158-22 Hornet only. Those both were model 158s though. That's kind of weird. Then I saw another one. I saw a different one somewhere, an ad for it. I don't think I have it here, but it was like 44 Magnum and 4570 also, like crazy stuff. I mean, if we were doing a whole H&R expose, I would tear it apart, but just giving you an idea of the family that this fit into. There were also some ones here. Check these out. The Sahara Model 755. This was an autoloader with the Mannlicher stock. That's a beauty right there. I'd love to have one of those. 22 long rifle. Oh, that's a single shot with automatic ejection. How weird is that? So it's a semi-auto, but single shot. Huh. That is odd. And the 760 is that same rifle, but without the Mannlicher stock. 22 long rifle, single shot with automatic ejection. Couldn't just put a magazine on that thing? I wonder if they had them with magazines also. And this Sahara, this 755 and the 760 were the single shot versions. Well, there's the Plainsman right underneath that. And then the Pioneer there down on the bottom, which was the Plainsman as a single shot. All right, so let's check out some function testing. We got the new batch of realistic snap caps. New batch of 22s. These things will eventually wear out. They'll eventually get gouged up, dented from function testing. Since they're regular 22 cases, if you drop the hammer on these things, if you drop the firing pin on them, you are going to dent them up. I don't really use them for that. I would use just brass cases, like from just spent cases that I'd stick back in the chamber to see how firing pins are hitting. I save these just for straight up function drills. But even so, they do get torn up. That's the whole idea. I'm going to show you why you want to use these. By the way, it's realistic snap caps are you find these things online. If you use my coupon code Milsurp Garage, one word, MILSURPGARAGE, you get 10% off your order. They have all different calibers, but these 22 ones are pretty new. They're some of their newest, and I was happy to be in on the what would be the word? I was in on the design and the implementation of getting these things going. So 6 fit in here. Listen, these are right out of the 22 playbook here. Okay, there's no H&R wasn't they weren't breaking any barriers here. They're right out of the 22 rifle playbook, but they did have their own little way of doing things. And part of their way of doing things is one of the reasons why it makes a lot of sense to use these snap caps that I'm going to show you. So 6 in the mag, okay? Can't put the mag in with the bolt closed if it's full, so you have to open up the bolt to get it to fit. Now the thing with these are it functions pretty good when you mean it. When it's firing, it's definitely dependent on its function is definitely dependent on it actually working the way it's supposed to work. You can't slow rack, you can't do things like that. You have to really mean it. Now, if I drop the hammer on this, like I said, I would dent it. I don't want to do that, but when it's charged, it's not doesn't work quite as easy as it does after the action is relaxed, like after the striker hits. You know what I mean? So if it doesn't necessarily pick one up or eject one, see, like right there, it didn't eject it. Just understand that during actual live fire, it does function a little bit better. Now, one of the things, this is the reason why I wanted to say why these snap caps are important, why it's important to use these type. It's totally inert. These things don't have any primer in the rim. These things don't have any powder inside. They're just totally inert, impossible to have an accident with just these around. This is why it's important to use these things. Now, let's see, we gotta get in there. Let's see if I could really, might be able to show you. Now, I need a pointer. Hold on. Should have been ready. Sorry. So we use a nice dirty wooden dowel as a pointer. You know what? Here, get a clean one for you guys. So right over here is the ejector. Okay, so the extractor, dual claw extractors here. I'm pretty sure, right? So we got an extractor here and an extractor here. In here, we could see the ejector right here, right? And it hits on. No, I'm sorry. That's the firing pin. The ejector is right up underneath here. You can't see it with the round there. Wow, I have a lot of problems today. Can't really see it with the round there, but you could see it hit right there. Now, see, that one's gone now. Well, what happens is this is the ejector right here, and it hits the rim of the cartridge, where just me cycling these is leaving a dent. Just from me, these are brand new. So here, I ejected it once, it hit here, another time it hit here. This one I ejected, I think I did a couple of times. Look at that. That's not from a firing pin. That's from this ejector. So with this rifle, you need to be very, very careful if you're going to eject an unfired round. So if you're going to load a round like this and then you're going to change your mind, you're going to drop the mag and you're going to unload, this point, you want to be really careful. See that for some reason the extractors didn't even pull it out when I took the mag out. So that could be a good way to do it. Let's see if it does that again. So I have 2 rounds in here. There's only 1. Let me load 2. Actually, I'll just put in a third. Let me see if it does that again, because I know it's a great procedure to use. So there you go, it's loaded. Now if I drop the mag, is that round pulled out by the extractors? No, look at that. The extractors don't seem to hold it when the mag is gone. So that's a great way to do it. Because if the mag was in, you load it up around. See, sometimes they want to nosedive if you play around with the mag too much. What's going on there where that's happening? It's not back against the back of the magazine. So if I go to extract it with the magazine still in there is when it stays. So it relies on the round underneath to kind of hold it in there. But right there, hitting against, you want to be really gentle if you're extracting a unfired round, that you don't just rack this open and bang out like that, because you can set it off. And if you've never seen a round set off outside of the chamber, because that's exactly what you would be doing. You'd be setting it off out in the open air. You know what I mean? It's not like it would just get set off like an accidental discharge. It's an accidental discharge where the round isn't contained and it goes off like a firecracker. You know what I mean? So you see where firecracker paper flies? That's exactly what happens with brass shrapnel, even in a 22. So you definitely want to be careful with that. And different 22s definitely react different. You ever have like a batch of 22s that you're shooting and like a lot of them just aren't going off? That's because maybe your firing pin is a little bit on the weak side for that particular brand of ammo that needs a real strong strike. And then you use a different kind of ammo and you go, yeah, these work great. It's like, yeah, maybe those get set off a little bit easier. You know what I mean? And they might not be so great for a rifle like this. And there are a few different 22s that will leave a dent like that in the rim upon ejection. So keep your eyes open, but this is definitely one of them. So here's some shooting video. This thing, I'm telling you, when it was actually in action, it works great. There aren't many issues. I noticed that just cycling when you're just doing function testing, it balks a little bit. But out there when it warms up and you got real live ammo, and this bolt definitely demands that you mean what you say. It's one of those guns that you got to mean it, and but it's got an interesting bolt handle angle, and a bolt that the bolt handle feel is kind of interesting. It kind of tilts back, it's got turn down and a tilt back to it, so it's kind of interesting. It's got some real nice sight lines, and the trigger, not the greatest in the world. It's, like I said, par for the course for these 22s. It wasn't bad. Once you get the feel for it, you know where the break is. At least it was consistent. You know what I mean? And for 1965, or mid-60s, this is like right just about in mid-production of these. They were made from 49 to 86, so right about in mid-production. And, they were cranking these things out. They were popular. And it got to be honest, it really it worked well. It was decently accurate, and didn't give me any problems once it was cleaned up. But yeah, it really was a mess. It was horrible, actually. It was the kind of stuff where you really got to get out some serious astringent stuff, mineral spirits, and a lot of gun scrubbing and cleaning up. But that's cool because probably that grease, even though it had dried on and dried up and it was all gunky, that could be what protected it all these years. And then you see a lot of them for auction. There are tons of these out there, man. There's a lot of them. When you do Google search, you're going to see 8 billion auctions for them, whatever. And I got this one again. I think I paid $120 for it. They're not a lot of money, these, but even $120 could be, some might say I overpaid because they are pretty cheap. But the thing about it was, it's just all there. You know, the sling swivels are there. The condition is good. The function is good. It's not missing any parts. You know what I mean? The only thing that would have been, the only other bonuses are like when they come with scopes, because I love to kind of just have a little collection of those cheapy 22 scopes. I like every once in a while, you know, you see one with a scope on it, I raise an eyebrow. I'll take one in a little worse condition with a 22 scope on it. And some of them, these old Weaver B4s, C6s, you know, they have these old Weaver scopes, are just kind of interesting to knock around with. This one didn't have one, but it's nice. The grooves on the top for a scope are nice. This would be a good candidate, but to tell you the truth, the lines on this thing were really nice. I liked it, so I left it as is. And that's about it, I guess. Listen, Harrington and Richardson. Yeah, I don't think I have another. I don't think we've ever done the Harrington Richardson rifle. I think this might be my first. I got I'm pretty sure we had a hand. Did we? Maybe I just have that in the cache and we never got to that video yet. No, I'm pretty sure I did that one. But they've been around a long time. They have a war history. They were, they were working on M1 Garands, but I think that might have been, they might have not really got, they might not be a Harrington and Richardson M1 Garand wartime. They might be like post-war or something like that. I think something like that, if I remember correctly. But they were around for a long time. They got a lot of history, and a lot of it is older stuff that it's a little bit out of my realm. A lot of, like break action pistols. There's a lot of older stuff that for some reason I just kind of like skip over when I'm looking at stuff. It doesn't really hold that much interest. And but these rifles that I'm learning now, just looking over these different rifles, some of these combination rifles are just damn interesting, And that single shot autoloader, the Sahara. That's just interesting. Why would you go single shot with automatic ejection? That's something new to me. It fires 22 short, long, and long rifle cartridges fitted with single shot rifle with automatic cocking and ejection. So when you shoot, the bolt stays open, I guess. Interesting. I don't know if anybody has one of those. Throw a comment up and tell us how weird that is. I'd love to check one of those out. I'm going to keep my eyes open for these Harrington and Richardsons. Interesting little realm, and if I see another one that's interesting, I'll pick it up. But yeah, this is our first, and I liked it. It fits well in the group, and it's going to make a lot of friends there in the gun safe. So you all take care. Good to be out there with these 22s. I hope you're in a 22 mood, because that's what it is. It's turned into one led right into the other. What could I tell you? And yeah, the Plainsman, the Harrington and Richardson Plainsman, coming right off the what was the last one? The Montgomery Ward Hawthorne 814. That was the Coltier 1-22. These guys are like good buddies, actually. They were both from the same batch. That's the other one that I was talking about. That's one of the other ones from the same batch was the Montgomery Ward Hawthorne 814. Another one, good shape, but needed a cleaning. But they're like cousins, and they get along. And that's it. I'll see you all later. Take care. Thanks for tuning in. The new subscribers, welcome. We got a lot of 22s coming up, but check back at the older videos. We've gone on shotgun tangents. We've gone on pistol tangents. I don't know where we're going to go from here. Actually, maybe I'll just break it up. I do have a whole bunch of, there is some other stuff on the back burner. I could mix it up a little bit. So stay tuned. I know I said 22s, but I might surprise you. You never know. See you soon.